Transforming Nations, the miraculous revelation of Shem, Ham, and Japheth's divine covenant legacy. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, the world stood anew, cleansed from the taint of wickedness by the great flood commanded by God. As the sun ascended brightly in the sky, its warmth carried a promise, a divine assurance that the cycles of seasons would endure for the generations to follow. Genesis 8:22. Noah, aged with the weight of wisdom and sorrow, stood upon the solid ground with his family as the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat, the once mighty vessel now silent, a testament to God's judgment and mercy. Gathering his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, beneath the great oak tree that had sheltered them amidst the chaos, Noah prepared to impart a solemn blessing. The fragrance of the earth, washed clean by the floodwaters, filled his lungs as he invoked God's presence over them. "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Let Canaan be his servant," he proclaimed, declaring Shem's future to be one rooted in righteousness, leading to nations that would worship Yahweh. With anticipation, Japheth listened, hearing his father's words echo. "May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem," Noah affirmed. Speaking of expansion and connection, the intertwining destinies of brothers outlined before them. But amid the blessings, Ham remained silent, dread casting a shadow over his heart. He felt the weight of his past actions, a breach of honor toward his own father, and the path stretching out before him bore signs of struggle. As they embarked on the daunting task of repopulating the earth, each brother faced trials unfolding within God's plan. Shem pressed forward, embodying righteousness, while seeking to trace the lineage that would not only bear fruit for Israel, but cradle the hope of the Messiah. His endeavors resonated with mercy and grace, unraveling the promise of God in a still weary world. Japheth explored the vibrant lands, beholding the beauty of God's creation, his heart alive with possibility. "How magnificent are your works, O Lord," he marveled, understanding his role as a conduit of connection among peoples, extending the knowledge of God to the nations yet unreached. But Ham found himself beset by darker trials. He traversed barren flats, draped in shadows of despair. Disillusioned by his actions against Noah, he sought to evade the curse that threatened to define him, only to find the legacy of generational conflict following in his footsteps. His heart ached for redemption, yet in the silence of the plains, echoes of disappointment haunted his journey. Days turned into weeks, with their paths naturally converging even as tensions climbed. Shem's steadfast commitment to honor clashed repeatedly with Ham's misguided quest for personal legacy, each brother standing firm in convictions born from their disparate natures. Japheth, blamed as peacekeeper, sought to bridge the divide, yet realized there was a wall forming, a rivalry sparked by the weight of blessings not evenly distributed. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the sun dipped below the mountains, casting elongated shadows across their encampments, the brothers gathered, aware that the weight of their shared legacy laid heavy on their shoulders. The fragmentation simmered beneath the surface, begging for resolution. Would they find a pathway to reconcile their differences encased in the truths of God's covenant promises? As a storm loomed on the horizon, charged with divine mystery, the atmosphere thickened. What revelations awaited them in a future propelled by choices yet made? With hearts divided and the air fragrant with providence, the brothers stood poised on the precipice of fate, their destinies forever entwined in God's unbreakable plan. As the darkness of evening settled around them, the brothers exchanged wary glances, each sensing the unsettled spirit that lingered in the air. Noah, his voice gentle yet firm, lifted his hands toward heaven in fervent prayer. O Lord, creator of the heavens and the earth, grant us wisdom as we strive to fulfill your commands upon this new world. The wind stirred, rustling the leaves of the great oak above them, carrying the echoes of Noah's petition to the very throne of God. As they bowed their heads in reverence, a stillness fell, as if the universe paused to watch the frail flame of hope flicker within their hearts. Father, Shem began, breaking the silence, our journey ahead is fraught with trials. Yet I believe it is not by our own strength we shall prevail, but by the covenant promised to our father, a legacy not just of land, but of faith. His words ignited a flicker of unity, a hope that stirring within them might illuminate the darkened paths. Japheth, glancing toward Ham, spoke with compassion. Brother, we stand here not to cast stones, but to build bridges. In our unity, we reflect the glory of our Maker. Let us not allow the past to chain our future, for in God there is always hope for restoration. Ham hesitated, the weight of conflict still clinging to his spirit. How can I reclaim what I have lost? I bear the burden of my actions, and the shadow of my past looms large. His voice trembled as he laid bare his heart. Redemption is not beyond you, Ham, Shem responded earnestly, for even David, a man after God's own heart, bore the scars of sin yet found grace. God's mercies are new every morning. As the brothers spoke, the storm gathering beyond the mountains mirrored tumult in their souls. Thunder rumbled ominously, and a crack of lightning illuminated the sky, reflecting the tumult of emotions among them. Suddenly, a voice from beyond the darkness broke through the cacophony of the storm. Do not fear, for I am with you. The voice resonated like a trumpet within their hearts, cascading warmth and peace over the cold bitterness that had settled there. The brothers looked at one another, awe striking their hearts as they sensed the divine presence enveloping them. Who speaks? Japheth called into the dark, hope woven into his words. Behold the promise of your lineage, the voice declared, filled with authority and grace. For I shall make nations from you, even amidst strife. The descendants of Shem shall know me as their God, and Ham shall not be forsaken, but will bear a new name, known among the peoples. Japheth shall spread forth and bring light to the forgotten lands. With each declaration, the tempest outside raged, not in fury, but as a chorus of creation responding to the unfolding purpose of God. The brothers trembled, not with fear, but with anticipation, as they began to grasp the magnitude of what lay ahead. Great is the mystery of God's will, Shem exclaimed, a new light igniting in his eyes. He will reconcile all things, even among us. As the storm began to dissipate, the brothers felt a renewed bond tightening around them, a tangible testament of God's promise ordained before time began. Together they grasped hands, declaring in unison, "For our God is sovereign, and his purposes shall not fail." As the last flickers of the storm faded, a new dawn began to break on the horizon. The brothers stood steadfast, a triad of hope against a backdrop of divine mystery, ready to face what was yet unseen, yet knowing that the path ahead would reveal the unfolding chapters of their legacy. But in that sacred moment, an echo of the past surfaced. An unforeseen challenge loomed in the shadows, waiting to confront their unity and test the strength of their newfound resolve. What trials did the future unveil as God's sovereign plan began to unfold? As the dawn broke, its light knifed through the remnants of night, casting golden rays upon the earth. a gentle reminder of God's faithfulness anew. The brothers, emboldened by the divine promise echoing in their hearts, turned towards the vast expanse of land before them. Noah, lifting his eyes to the heavens, breathed deeply, sensing the weight of their collective purpose. "Come, my sons," Noah beckoned, his voice steadfast and tender. "Let us explore this land that has been given to us and survey the paths we must tread to fulfill the Lord's command." Shem stepped forward, a fire igniting his spirit. "We shall seek out where the Lord leads, for he is the light unto our feet." Psalm 119:105. With faith, the foundations we lay today will become a beacon for generations to come. And so the trio journeyed, stepping into the newness of creation that lay untainted before them. Each step resonated with purpose, as though the very soil rejoiced at the arrival of their feet. As they traveled, the voice of their father echoed in their hearts. "Just as the Lord commanded Noah to build an ark for salvation, so must you construct a legacy of faith and righteousness. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea." Habakkuk 2:14. Amidst the hills and valleys, they stumbled upon a barren land, desolate and without fruit. Ham, his heart weighed heavy with the burden of the past, looked upon it with justified despair. "What use is here? How can we thrive in an empty place?" "Do not underestimate what the Lord can do," Japheth replied gently. "Impossible things become possible in his hands. Remember how he called forth life from the void. We too can cultivate this ground if we profess his promises boldly." Encouraged, they knelt on the arid soil, hands outstretched as they offered a prayer of dedication. "Lord, breathe life into this land. Grant us your touch, that we might see growth where there appears to be only death. We trust in your promise to make a great nation from us," they pleaded in unison. Suddenly, with a resounding clap of thunder, the clouds gathered as if sent from heaven. Rain began to pour, and a rainbow emerged in the distance, a divine sign of covenant. The soil soaked up the drops, transformed as life burst forth with every falling droplet. Grass greened, blossoms brightened the landscape, and trees began to flourish anew. "Oh, how marvelous is our God!" Shem exclaimed, the sight overwhelming them with joy. "He has shown us his might as we obey his calling. This place will one day nourish our children, and from it shall rise an abundance of blessings, just as the Lord promised." As they beheld the miraculous transformation of the land, a shadow passed behind them, unsettling the peace they felt in that moment. A traveler approached, weary and ragged, his presence speaking of discontent and desolation. "Do you dare enlarge the territory here? This land belongs to the past, not for the dreams you kindle." Japheth met the man's gaze, filled with compassion, but also resolute in faith. "The Lord has called us to restore creation, to sow hope where despair reigns. The past does not dictate our future, for our God has made a way where there seems to be none." The man scoffed, but there was a glimmer of something deeper in his eyes. "Yet what hope can you find here, in this land subdued by silence and sorrow?" Shem stood firm, heart racing. "Hope is birthed in the most unlikely of places. For our family's legacy shall rise, and through faith we shall build a sanctuary, a beacon of hope across the nations. God's word shall not return void." Isaiah 55:11. With that proclamation, the tension thickened the air around them, divine urgency weaving through their spirits. They sensed the weight of the words spoken upon the land, reverberating deeper than the very earth beneath their feet. And so it was, as they looked out across the burgeoning glade of renewal, the shadows drew nearer. For the challenge had come, not merely of man, but of the forces of darkness that sought to hinder their mission. What greater trials await when the adversary hears of our calling, the brothers wondered, now standing poised on the precipice of their destiny. Yet, in the silence that followed, a whisper echoed within their hearts. "Fear not, for all things work together for good to those who love God." Romans 8:28. The sovereign plan of the Almighty is unfolding, and you shall witness a greater redemption than you can fathom. Thus, with renewed strength rooted in the promise of the Lord, the brothers prepared their hearts anew, knowing that though trials awaited, they were destined to witness the miraculous, revealing the depths of God's sovereign plan. As the sun ascended fully in the sky, the warmth of its rays enveloped the brothers, casting shadows of great potential upon their eager hearts. They stood united, yet aware that an unseen storm brewed behind them, the words of the traveler still echoing in the air. No sooner had they settled in the land, marveling at the vibrant growth before their eyes, than a faint rustle in the distance caught their attention. From the thicket emerged figures, their faces shadowed but their intentions unclear. The air grew heavy with uncertainty, as if the very creation held its breath. "Who goes there?" Ham called out, steadying his heart. The figures drew nearer, revealing a small band of men whose countenances pulsed with a blend of intimidation and curiosity. Leading them was a man draped in garments of ancient significance, bearing an air of authority that stirred unrest within the brothers. "We are the keepers of these lands," the leader proclaimed, his voice a deep resonance. "You trespass upon soil that speaks of our forebears. Speak your purpose, lest you face the wrath of history." Shem stepped forward, the weight of his father's charge clear upon him. "We have come to fulfill a divine commission, to cultivate not only this land, but the very hearts of those who dwell upon it. Our mission is of restoration, a legacy that seeks to breathe life where death once lingered. We ask not to conquer, but to share in the glory of God's promise." The leader's brow furrowed, glancing at his companions who shifted uneasily. "And what proof have you of this promise? Words are but whispers in the wind until they take form. What sign shall you show us?" The earth trembled lightly beneath their feet, as if echoing with celestial anticipation. In that moment, Japheth felt the stirring in his soul. He raised his hands toward the heavens. "Let the Lord reveal himself, as he has shown wonders before. May this land bear witness to his glory. Let the forgotten flow as a river of hope." With a silent agreement, Shem and Ham joined their brother, their voices ascending in unison, pouring forth a heartfelt prayer that resonated with divine agreement. "O Lord, may your Spirit descend mightily upon this soil once more. Let the waters part and allow your light to shine where shadows have loomed." As they prayed, the skies darkened, but instead of foreboding, they held the promise of rain. With a crack of thunder, drops began to cascade down upon them, striking the earth like sacred arrows. The barren patches transformed instantly, flowers and greenery bursting forth as if the very heartbeat of creation was awakened by their plea. The keeper's eyes widened in disbelief and reverence, realizing that they stood before something far greater than mere men, an echo of the covenant of God being fulfilled before their very eyes. "Who are you?" the leader stammered, awe weaving into his voice. "We are the sons of Noah," answered Ham, his spirit alight with conviction. "And we come as instruments of the Most High, called to reignite hope amidst despair, to reclaim what is rightfully his." The keeper fell to his knees, his regality stripped away by the weight of what had just transpired. "Then let us not stand divided. Teach us the path upon which you tread, that we too may know this God who breathes life anew." Thus the light of understanding ignited the hearts of the watchers, forging a covenant anew amongst men. They gathered, hands raised as one, acknowledging the Lord's sovereignty in their midst. Yet,
As the day waned and the first stars began to twinkle in the growing dusk, a distant roar echoed across the landscape, chilling yet potent. The brothers turned, sensing that this was merely the beginning. For with every advancement of God's purpose, darkness plotted to counteract. "Will we be ready for what lies ahead?" Japheth pondered aloud, his heart pounding with the threat of turmoil that still lurked. "Fear not," Shem spoke, unyielding in faith. "For the Lord who has begun a good work in us will carry it to completion." Philippians 1:6. Our purpose is intertwined with His promise, and greater still shall be our witness. Thus, amidst the flourishing creation, the brothers felt a surge of divine assurance. Little did they know, while they forged alliances upon the earth, a grander vision was weaving itself into existence, one that would bind nations together through strife, hope, and ultimately an abiding covenant. And within the depths of the heavens, a whisper lingered. "I am crafting a tapestry of redemption. Stretch your faith, for a revelation greater than this is yet to come." As the night deepened, the air crackled with an energy unseen, each breath filled with anticipation and the promise of divine movement. The brothers, now huddled with their newfound allies, sought solace amidst the shadows that loomed beyond the flickering light of
shared faith. The sudden roar that had pierced the evening air resonated once more, echoing across the hills, a stark reminder of the unknown terrors that lay in wait. Ham glanced at his brothers, each reading the unspoken fear that tugged at their hearts. "Let us remain steadfast," he urged, his voice steady yet filled with fervor. "For we are not alone. The God who parted the seas is our refuge." "Indeed," replied Japheth, a flicker of determined light glinting in his eyes. "We must prepare ourselves, not just for the battle we sense approaching, but for the work the Lord has set before us. Let us build an altar here, that we may offer our thanks and our petitions unto Him." Shem nodded, recalling the traditions passed down by their father. "In every generation, the Lord has called men to remembrance. We will raise this altar as a testament to His faithfulness. As it is written, 'Let them build me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them.'" Exodus 25:8. Together, the brothers gathered stones from the fertile earth, their hands working in unity, hearts aligning with every weight they lifted. Around them, the keepers observed, their skepticism slowly dissipating in the beautiful act of faith laid before them. What had begun as hostility transformed into curiosity, as they witnessed a physical manifestation of belief unraveling under the moonlit sky. As the altar rose, they placed their hands upon it, the cool stone grounding them amid the tension swirling around. They took turns praying aloud, their voices mingling with the sounds of creation, echoing into the void, calling upon the Lord who declares, "You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart." Jeremiah 29:13. With fervent prayer ascending in chords of praise, the heavens shifted. A wind stirred, gentle yet powerful, and from the altar, fire ignited miraculously, consuming the offerings brought forth. In awe, the watchers gasped, recognizing this as a sign of divine acceptance. Their hearts awakened at the revelation of God's pulse amongst them. Then, amidst the sacred shadows and flickering light, the leader of the keepers, whose name was Zimri, stepped forward with a heavy heart. "If we are to be as one," he proclaimed, "then I must confess a truth buried among my people. For we have long been haunted by a fierce tribe beyond the mountains, known as the Rephaim. They loom ever closer, their strategies obscured like nightfall. We fear for our lands and our lives." The brothers exchanged understanding glances, the danger now near enough to touch. "We will stand with you against them," Shem proclaimed, a new resolve igniting in his voice. "For the Lord who promises to be our shield and refuge has called us to fight not just for ourselves, but for the souls of many." And so, amidst the flickering flames and under the vast expanse of stars, a pact was forged between the brothers and the keepers. They would unite. Against the encroaching darkness, a bond wrought of faith, hope,
and determination. Yet in this tapestry of unity, a hidden truth lingered, whispering through the night. As the moon cast its pale glow upon them, a sudden stillness enveloped the scene. It was then that Shem heard it, a stirring in the winds of heaven. "Fear not, for I am sending my messenger ahead of you." With those words echoing in his soul, Shem fell silent, the gravity of God's promise heavy upon him. What lay ahead was shrouded in mystery, yet he sensed the divine trajectory of the forthcoming battle was intertwined with the very future of nations. And as the sun began to tease the horizon, the brothers clasped hands, burdened yet uplifted, for the time had come to claim their covenant legacy, entwined with God's sovereign blueprint, one that would shift the destinies of peoples far and wide. The challenge ahead loomed, but within the depth of their hearts, an unshakable hope was birthed. Who would rise against them, and more so, against the God who had lit their path? As dawn broke, ethereal light spilled across the land, washing away the shadows of the night. The brothers felt the weight of their purpose settle heavily upon them, infused with the divine promise they had just sensed. Ham turned to the growing company of the keepers, their eyes reflecting uncertainty, yet a flicker of newfound hope. "We shall not simply wait for the enemy," he declared, his voice ringing clear with conviction. "Instead, we will prepare our hearts and our spirits for the conflict that lies ahead. As it is written, the battle is the Lord's." 1 Samuel 17:47. Embarking upon a regimen of prayer and preparation, they gathered to train their bodies and minds, forging their unity amid the early rays of the sun. Shem led them in a fierce examination of their purpose, unearthing strategies that rested not solely on might, but on the profound strength bestowed through shared faith. "We are to be equipped in spirit and truth," he said, recalling the words spoken by their father, Noah, about the might of faith over the frailty of flesh. Zimri stood beside them, his heart swelling with a mix of fear and faith, and spoke to his tribe. "Let us become warriors of the light, for we are emboldened by the Almighty, who has promised deliverance." His call stirred something deep within each soul present. The keepers began to honor their newfound alliance, embracing the hope kindled by the prayers and utterances igniting the air around them. As they trained, the rumble of unseen forces approached the encampment. The chilling winds carried whispers, filling the atmosphere with foreboding. Japheth, ever vigilant, observed the distant mountains where the Rephaim resided. "The hour draws near," he murmured, his statement heavy with foreboding realization. The brothers exchanged knowing glances. Their bond, now more profound than before, called them to the forefront of battle. Then, in the midst of their preparations, a figure emerged from the distant horizon, a solitary man clad in white, whose presence radiated a divine luminescence. As he approached, the air tinged with the scent of myrrh, a scent both sweet and fearsome. Silence fell upon the gathering as all eyes turned toward this heavenly messenger. "It is I," he proclaimed, in a voice that resonated like thunder, yet soothed like a gentle breeze. "I come in the name of the Lord, sent to strengthen the hearts of the covenant-bearers. Know this, the battle you face is predestined, a clash woven into the very fabric of existence. The Rephaim are but shadows of fear, for the Lord has equipped you with authority. Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Joshua 1:9. With these words, hope surged anew within the brothers and their allies. The messenger instructed them, revealing prophetic glimpses of the struggle ahead and the spiritual warfare they would engage in. "You must fast and pray, anoint the land, and gather strength from each other, for in unity the heart of strength lies." As he finished his proclamation, the ground trembled softly beneath their feet, a reminder of the staggering might of the Lord. The messenger vanished, but the sense of his presence lingered like a holy flame igniting within their spirits. The brothers, now invigorated, knelt together as one before the altar they had built, asking the Lord to grant them favor and wisdom. As the skies brightened and the day unfolded, Shem spoke with urgency.
Who we are called to be in this battle transcends our fears. We are the vessels of a plan unfolding across generations. "But what is this truth that lies before us?" asked Japheth, his voice heavy with the gravity of the calling. In unison they rose, emboldened to face their destiny. The air hummed with divine anticipation, painting a vibrant backdrop to the pivotal moments ahead. And it was then that Shem, struck by a profound revelation, whispered, "The Lord has revealed his plan, one which will echo through the ages." The brothers clasped their hands anew, an unbreakable bond of covenant and commitment. As they looked toward the horizon, the mystery of God's sovereign plan shimmered in the distance, both thrilling and daunting, beckoning them to stride forward into uncharted territories, where legacies would be written and nations transformed. And in the depths of their hearts arose a burning question. What miraculous purpose awaited them on the battlefield, entwined with God's eternal saga? As the sun arched high into the heavens, casting its warm embrace upon the encampment, the brothers ventured forth from their sacred gathering, invigorated yet sobered by the heavenly words they had received. Each of their hearts beat as one, pulsating with the rhythm of divine purpose, a preparation set forth for what lay ahead. The winds had shifted, and with it the spirit of anticipation ignited within their ranks. "Come, let us anoint the land," said Shem, his voice weaving through the community. They gathered fresh oil and fragrant herbs, setting forth to bless the soil beneath their feet. As they poured out their offerings unto the earth, they invoked the name of the Lord, pleading fervently for his protection and guidance in the days to come. With each anointing, they felt the oppression of fear begin to dissipate, replaced with a surge of holy courage. Ham, witnessing the transformation of his brothers and the array of keepers, lifted his hands to the sky and cried, "The Lord has chosen us. In our obedience, his glory shall be revealed." The words echoed, reverberating within the hearts of all who listened. Yet, as their hearts swelled with fervor, the horizon grew dark, a solemn reminder of the Rephaim lurking in the unseen. The ominous shadow of the mountains loomed, and a hush fell over the congregation as they lapsed into solemn prayer, beseeching God's strength and wisdom, like David, who once sought divine counsel as he looked upon Goliath, 1 Samuel 30:6. Japheth, a watchman amidst them, stood vigilant, scanning the skyline. The anxiety threading through the air was palpable. "Brothers," he uttered, "let us remember that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of darkness and spiritual forces in the heavenly places." Ephesians 6:12. Their voices lifted together, a chorus of faith. "We shall stand firm." In that moment of unity, a revelation descended like rain upon parched earth, igniting the minds of the brothers. Shem spoke, his voice bearing the weight of divine understanding. "The enemy seeks to divide us, to instill fear. But the Lord has revealed his plans through our lineage, the promise that his covenant shall not falter." Suddenly, the earth trembled, not in the terror of foes, but in the might of a God who was present with his people. The distant mountains echoed back the sound of shifting ground. Was it the Rephaim approaching, or was it something far greater? Ham's eyes widened as he grasped the enormity of their calling. What if our battle today is the very elixir to break curses that have lingered for generations? "Every sword raised against us shall indeed fall, for we are his chosen." The brothers took their places, emboldened. Zimri, ensuring they each grasped one another's arms in unity, reminded them of the ancient words. "Remember, if God is for us, who can be against us?" Romans 8:31. His declaration stoked the flames of their courage, suffusing every heart with renewed resolve. As the shadows began to shift under the waning sun, a stillness enveloped the scene, and the brothers bowed low once more in solemn prayer, each voice lifted collectively to the heavens.
Lord, if it is your will, deliver us from the hand of our enemies. Just then, a voice broke through the solemn silence, an ancient melody carried on the breeze, affirming their faith and devotion. It was as if the very angels of heaven sang in response to their supplications. With their spirits aflame, the brothers turned toward the mountains looming before them, prepared to face what was to come. Yet within the stillness lingered an unfathomable truth, a realization that echoed in the chambers of their hearts. As they took a stand for what was righteous, would they be mere conquerors on the battlefield, or would they unleash the profound legacy that God had woven into the very tapestry of creation? What awaited them in this divine confrontation was a path leading not just to victory, but to a revelation that would reflect God's sovereign plan through ages untold, where nations would trace their lines back to the moment when they stood firm in faith, ready to ignite the world with the promise of the Almighty. As the gathering of the brothers stood united before the mountains, an electric pulse of anticipation coursed through the camp. The air grew dense with the sacredness of their purpose, a cosmic significance underlying every heartbeat. With the darkness advancing, a voice filled with resolve surged forth. Japheth, whose eyes shone with the light of understanding, proclaimed, "The Lord has called us not merely to defend our land, but to reclaim it in His name." With the rising tide of righteousness swelling in their hearts, they multiplied their petitions to the Lord. Each brother, in turn, poured his spirit into the prayer, weaving their voices into a tapestry of faith that lifted toward the heavens, echoing the cries of Moses at the Red Sea, Exodus 14:15. "Mighty God," they beseeched, "forth from your sanctuary, let your justice pour like a river." In the distance, the shadows began to take form. The vibration of the approaching rapine sent tremors through the ground, calling forth a test of their collective valor. Yet where fear lingered, hope shone brighter. "Yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we shall fear no evil, for you are with us. Your rod and your staff, they comfort us." Psalm 23:4, Ham declared, emboldening the spirits of those encircled. Shem stepped into the forefront, sensing that their spiritual arsenal was more potent than swords or shields. He spread his arms wide, the oil pooling at his feet, sparkling like the ancient waters of Gihon, a refuge of divine favor. "Our weapons are not physical, for we wrestle not against the principalities of this world, but against the rulers of the darkness." Ephesians 6:12. And thus, empowered by these words, their prayers shimmered in unison, each syllable an incantation of sacred strength, each heartbeat a vow against despair. As they vocalized their commitment, the mountains glimmered in response, as if heaven itself stirred at their conviction. A mighty wind commenced to swirl around them, a cleansing breath of divine promise. The very elements bore witness to their rallying faith, as a fire ignited within their midst, reminiscent of the tongues of flame at Pentecost. They gathered closer. Sons of Noah encircled in divine light, capturing the spirit of unity that the Lord had sought from the dawn of creation. But in the silence that came, a riddle unfolded within the hearts of the brothers, a hush that echoed the dynamic tension of heaven and earth in battle, contingent upon their next actions. Within this stillness, a fateful whisper stirred in the depths of their souls, revealing an ancient truth. The trials faced beneath the shadow were the birthing pains of nations yet to be formed, destinies intricately woven into the fabric of time. "Behold," set forth Shem's voice, threading together mystic clarity and urgency, "God's redemptive purpose shall spill forth even unto generations. Look not merely to the enemy's advance, but to the victory that heralds forth from our hands, for the world shall know the glory of the Most High through our legacy." And in that fervent moment, the ground pulsated with a burgeoning energy, an unfurling of purpose drenched in the potential of God's master plan. Something immense lay ahead, beyond their sight, brightening the horizon with the promise of divine fulfillment. Yet they sensed that the battle to come was not merely physical, but spiritual.
Every step deeper into the fray would further entwine fate's tapestry. The imminent encounter, marked by a zeal that stretched back to Eden, would shatter the chains of generations. Their actions today, the inception of a movement, would echo through time, shifting destinies. As they faced the mountains awash in divine expectancy, a question hung in the air, heavy and potent. Would their stand against the Rephaim not only release freedom for their people, but also unlock a myriad of blessings bestowed through their lineage? Indeed, what awaited the world was an unearthing of grace sealed within their obedience, a spark igniting the flame of nations yet unnamed, for God's sovereign plan stretched further than they could comprehend. As the murmurs of prayer rose like incense before the throne of God, the ground beneath the brothers shimmered with an otherworldly energy. They clasped their hands, feeling the weight of history upon their shoulders, for the Lord had called them not just to battle, but to a divine destiny. Suddenly, in the midst of their fervor, the air trembled with a mighty roar, heralding the arrival of their adversaries. The silhouette of the Rephaim loomed larger, a menacing cloud against the dusky sky. Japheth, sensing the encroaching darkness, raised his voice above the din of dread. "Fear not, brothers, for if God is for us, who can stand against us?" Romans 8:31. The brothers rallied behind Japheth's proclamation, their hearts ablaze with courage. "Let us not shrink back," urged Ham, his spirit stirred by the presence of the Almighty. "We are armed with the peace that surpasses all understanding, for He has equipped us for every good work." 2 Timothy 3:17. Each word fought against the encroaching shadows, renewing their resolve. Shem, whose heart burned with a sense of divine urgency, raised his eyes heavenward as he began to speak. "Lord, grant us not only victory over our enemies, but wisdom to see the greater plan unfolding. You have fashioned us in your likeness. We are instruments of your governance." A silence fell, echoing the prophetic words of Jeremiah. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29:11. As they prayed, the brothers became acutely aware of a presence surrounding them, a fiery light that pierced the gathering gloom. This was no fight of mere flesh and blood. It was a holy confrontation. The Rephaim were not merely enemies of Israel. They embodied the very oppression God vowed to dismantle. Each heartbeat within them resonated like the sounding of a trumpet, announcing that they were not alone. The moment stretched into an eternity, tension crackling like the charge in the air before a thunderstorm. With their hearts united and their spirits intertwined, the brothers formed a line, a bulwark of faith against the advancing storm. In that very stillness, the scriptures came alive, illustrating the cosmic struggle that ensued. A voice thundered from above, resounding through the valley. "You are my chosen, the remnant of my people. Stand firm, for I shall fight for you." The voice held the weight of promises made from the foundation of the world, echoing through Adam and into generations yet to come. The truth of the prophets swept through them, infusing every word with authority. "Prepare yourselves for the battle," Shem declared, his countenance radiant as he turned to face his brothers. They nodded in unison, fortified by the knowledge that this encounter would redefine their legacy and avail freedom for those yet unborn. It was a clarion call to their spirits, urging them to step forward into their appointed roles within God's grand narrative. "Let us march," commanded Ham, "for today is not only a battle for survival, it is the unveiling of our covenant. Our actions here will shape the destinies of nations. God's whispers of redemption will break forth, and through us He shall mend the world." Isaiah 61:1-3. With their hearts ablaze and spirits soaring, they stepped forward, faces set like flint, ready to confront the darkness that sought to engulf them.
Little did they know that this would not solely be a moment of conquest, but a sparkling inflection point in the unfolding saga of his redemptive plan. A pivotal chapter leading toward a promise far greater than the brothers anticipated. As they advanced, the ground beneath them heaved as ancient forces clashed violently. The question hung in the air, laden with divine mystery. What awaited them on the battlefield would not only determine the fate of their people, but also reveal a divine strategy hidden throughout time, a plan meticulously woven and waiting to be unveiled at the appointed hour of God's sovereign design. As dawn broke, a glorious new day spilled forth.
Across the horizon, bathing the land in resplendent light, a reflection of God's enduring promise. The brothers of Noah stood on the precipice of destiny, fortified by faith and driven by sacred resolve, ready to confront the encroaching forces of darkness that sought dominion over the lands. "Brothers," Shem spoke, lifting his eyes toward the heavens, "let us remember the covenant that binds us, the promise that our lineage shall bear fruit for generations. Our God is a consuming fire, and He shall consume our enemies before us." With their hearts harmonized in divine purpose, they clasped hands tightly, an unbroken cord of brotherhood woven through trials past and hopes future. The air crackled with a holy anticipation, reverberating with the promise of divine intervention, as the shadows of the Rephaim loomed ever closer, threatening to eclipse the light God had ordained. Yet on that battlefield, anxiety was cast aside, replaced by an unwavering spirit of determination. "Courage, my brothers," declared Japheth. "The Almighty's might is our shield and our fortress." Psalm 91:2. "We do not face this enemy alone. A legion of heaven's hosts encompasses us." With a collective breath, they stepped forward into the fray, resolute in their mission to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. The rhythmic sound of thunder echoed, not from storm, but from the very spirits of creation responding to their honored stand. The ground trembled beneath their feet, resonating with the truth that God was moving among them. As the first wave of the Rephaim rushed forth, a fierce clash erupted, a cacophony of iron against iron, faith against fear. Yet even in the chaotic whirlwind of battle, the brothers exemplified what it meant to be a united front. With every clash of swords, fervent prayers transcended every strike, entwining their spirits with divine power. "Lord, grant us victory," Ham cried out amidst the clamor, "for our hearts are aflame with your promise and our feet anchored in your word." And lo, even as swords clashed, their faith birthed a shield of protection around them, manifested in forms unseen but deeply felt. They fought not just for themselves, but for the legacy that would define God's chosen. Nations untold awaited the fruition of this prophetic moment. The Rephaim, formidable and fierce, surged with seeming invincibility, but amidst the tumult, the brothers recognized an exceptional truth, a reality woven into every fiber of their calling. This battle marks the turning point, the clash of divine redemption against the darkness that has sought to bind our histories, Shem proclaimed. As the skirmish raged on, a flash of light ignited the atmosphere. From the depths of heaven, the divine messenger they had encountered before reappeared, shining brighter than the sun. "It is written," he proclaimed, his voice echoing, "the victory is the Lord's. Stand firm and witness the deliverance I will bring." With those words, an ethereal strength surged through the brothers, compelling them to press forward as if propelled by celestial forces. The darkness that had encumbered their land began to tremble, scattering like leaves before a fierce tempest. In that pivotal hour, the eyes of heaven watched as these sons of Noah stood resolute. They became vessels through which the redemption of nations was set into motion. As they pierced through the ranks of their adversaries, the realization settled deep in their hearts. This was not merely a fight for survival, but a reclamation of hope, a declaration of divine purpose. The battle raged ferociously, each strike forged through unity and faith. And as noon approached, it became evident that the weight of heaven had descended upon the field. The Rephaim, born of shadows, began to falter. Their numbers dwindle as the brothers leaned into their charge, wielded prayers alongside their swords. "Onward!" shouted Japheth, his voice ringing with unwavering courage. "The Lord fights for us, let us not retreat." Amid the tumult, an incredible breakthrough unfolded. A surge of divine light blazed forth, cleaving the enemy's ranks as if unraveling the very threads of darkness. The brothers witnessed a momentous shift. The very air shimmered as their faith took tangible form. With renewed vigor, they pressed on, understanding they were not merely warriors of the flesh, but harbingers of a heavenly truth. "For the God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet," Romans 16:20, Shem shouted, emboldened by the promise etched in their hearts. With a final cry, they surged forth together, pushing against the very tide that sought to overwhelm them. And as the remnants of the Rephaim scattered like the chaff in the wind, a profound stillness fell over the battlefield, a stillness rich with the fragrance of divine victory. The brothers, weary yet triumphant, remained standing amidst the ruins of their foes, hearts pulsating with the newfound realization of their purpose. They had witnessed the tangible evidence of God's faithfulness. A sacred legacy was forged in that moment, a covenant not only among brothers, but among nations. As night descended upon the land, they gathered once more, this time around the altar they had built, shining with the embers of victory. Japheth raised his arm skyward. "Let us lift our voices in gratitude, for the Lord has fought for us today." And united, the brothers began to sing a new song, a hymn of praise that would echo throughout the ages, celebrating the faithfulness of a covenant-keeping God. The legacy of Shem, Ham, and Japheth was not merely about their individual paths, but was rooted in a divine story, and the nations they were destined to call forth bore the imprint of this victory. As they sang, the Spirit of the Almighty danced through the night air, igniting a flicker of newfound hope across the lands, an invitation for generations yet to come. For God's sovereign plan had been fulfilled in monumental ways, and the world would never be the same. And here, dear friends, let us reflect upon their journey and the legacy birthed that day. Now is the time to take action in your own faith, to embrace your role in God's beautiful narrative. Subscribe immediately to our channel so you are not left behind on powerful biblical stories that can transform lives. Leave a like now if you feel the urgency to help spread God's word through the algorithm, igniting the hearts of believers and seekers alike. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and share how this incredible biblical story has impacted your faith journey. And don't wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. The harvest is plentiful, and we are called to sow seeds of faith.